It's a wonderful Midwestern Marxist football fantasy.
Whipped cream bikinis make you sick.
1999, best movie year ever? Episode 2, Varsity Blues.
Welcome to the Blockbusters and Birdwalks podcast. I am the curator, Garrett Chaffin-Quiray. Today we have a conversation with a friend, Ed Rosa.
That's me. Hi. My filmmaking partner and I have a YouTube channel, Toothless Richard Productions, where you can see a number of our short films.
Let's go back to January 1999.
That's one small step for man.
I saw this thing being advertised.
Giant leap for mankind.
MTV Films movie? I'm not sure that I'm the target demographic anymore. I haven't watched since that season with Pedro of The Real World.
There was an MTV style glaze over the whole thing. Kind of.
Perhaps a year or so later, I had a trip and I saw a cousin of mine. I went to his home. He was an avid football player all through childhood and through high school. He was a college recruit, in fact, to play, I think, D2. He was injured in a car accident his senior year, but the love of football had never given up. He became a coach. It's in the blood. And he says, hey, let's watch Varsity Blues, which is also to say, the characters that this movie centers on are awful people I hate. But the other thing that I was aware of, Friday Night Lights, the expose of West Texas football through Permian High School was published, I think, in 1990. And I can remember thumbing through that at my Walden Books at our local mall.
That is a non-fictional tome?
It is.
Oh.
And he's Peter Berg's cousin. Peter Berg optioned his cousin's book, which was a bestseller, to make the movie of the same name, which was released, I think, in 2004 or 5, something like this. That became then the root of the sort of runaway NBC hit TV series, which has launched many careers. There was also a rather failed NBC series that only went for 6 episodes, somewhere in the mix of all of that, with a different title. I point all of these references out because I really like the movie Friday Night Lights. I like the sense of humanity that it is trying to expose but also criticize with a real nose to the grindstone of this is not a way to raise boys. This is not a way to raise a community. This is an inappropriate overinvestment in the wrong values. And at the same time, isn't camaraderie in sport excellent when performed at a high level? Varsity Blues takes away all of that seriousness, all of it. But a different way to view it is that Varsity Blues does collect a whole bunch of neat scenes that I very much enjoy, which is, again, why it's an MTV Films thing. It's aimed at somebody who was always younger than I ever was when this movie was released, and aimed at a person who had different values than I have ever possessed. A sidebar. I was really fascinated by the older brother of my high school girlfriend who was a star football player. Going into junior year, I wanted to get away from my activities and go out for the football team. So I have the slimmest little slice and glimpse of what my high school program was like at the very end of the 1980s because I was hero worshiping my girlfriend's older brother. It did not work out. I was a misfit. But what turned my whole understanding of football on edge at age 15, 16, somewhere in there when I did this, is that the coaches were promoting a really sort of blunt kind of sexist idea about what we boys were supposed to be all about. How the cheerleaders and the girl staffers bringing water out to two-a-days in the summer sun as you prepare for the season, what they were about as service providers. Hint, hint, get me, know what I'm talking about?
Right.
And the really unnerving part is one of those coaches had a daughter who was my age.
Shake for me, yeah. I want to be your backdoor man.
Porno in the 90s called I Can't Believe I Did the Whole Team. Turns out that this, just like Friday Night Lights, is true. It is a non-fictional tome.
And I was suddenly feeling orphaned in boy country, away from my normal social relationships. It was brutal. I got bloodied. It was a drag.
That's masculine.
And it was not for this unbutch guy. So All of that rolls into my now middle-aged response to Varsity Blues, which I have seen before, as I mentioned. Seeing it with my cousin was a certain kind of eye-opening account. Because another way that I think this movie can be celebrated, and probably is by most people who have a memory of it or wish to see it, it's not that it's boys will be boys and how toxic that is. It's that boys do have a culture all unto themselves, and the camaraderie and teamwork that they enjoy while building the team to accomplish something great, win a trophy, become state champions, whatever it is.
My girlfriend and I talk about, if we had a kid, all of the things we would make our child do, and one of them is team sports. I think that's very beneficial, and it helps you learn things about life and dealing with other people and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I do believe that there is inherent value in team sports.
And there is a quiet sort of theme that runs up through this movie and bubbles along, which has to do with self-actualization and a young person taking over the reins of leadership from the old, or at least the elder, that is no longer appropriately able to lead. But that's a message which I kind of go for in one of the scenes that works in this movie.
Before this game started, Kilmer said, 48 minutes for the next 48 years of our lives. I say, fuck that. All right? I say, fuck that. Let's go out there and we'll play the next 24 minutes for the next 24 minutes. And we'll leave it all out on the field. We got the rest of our lives to be mediocre, but we have the opportunity to play like gods for the next half of football. But we can't be afraid to lose. There's no room for fear in this game. And we go out there, and we half-ass it because we're scared. All we're left with is an excuse. We're always going to wonder. But we go out there, and we give it absolutely everything. That's heroic. Let's be heroes.
We have Legos all over the house, and it's something that we bring out when little kids come over and we play Legos on the floor. And the thing is, the linkages you make are sometimes really structurally interesting, kind of beautiful. They can be color matched or whatever, but they don't necessarily hook up with your buddy's work.
Right.
Who's got something else all in their head. I'm trying to build a castle. This fellow's trying to make a rocket ship. She's over here making animals. It doesn't link.
Yeah.
That's Varsity Blues. They don't quite congeal.
Right, right.
and I know that will be my refrain as we talk about this movie. And that's also because it's an echo of Friday Night Lights, which I think is the superior movie covering very similar territory. The snapshot here is we are looking at senior year for a group of kids who have grown up playing Pop Warner football into their high school years since they were 5 years old. They've all been champions at every level of their life, and they're now being groomed for greatness by the 30 years long coach Kilmer, played by none other than Jon Voight.
I didn't think he was acting.
I don't think he
For
was
some
either.
reason, I felt like I was just actually watching Jon Voight.
But he's being a very blunt patriarch, if not dictator, who's brought remarkable success to this little program at this little high school in the middle of Podunk, West Texas.
He's like the coach in Dazed and Confused.
I thought of that a lot, too. Exactly right. Those references land right on top of each other. But Dazed and Confused is negative nostalgia for the 70s. This is negative nostalgia, which was presented as Celebration in the late 1990s, and it's the same archetypes at work. Super masculine men. Bite the bullet, express no pain, win at all costs. That's Jon Voight's character, Coach Kilmer. All of the boys are in awe of him. All of them will kill themselves trying to serve the coach's needs, and they all hate him because they realize they're a disposable product. They will be replaced by the kids coming up in the ranks who are going to take their spot as soon as they age out of high school and graduate. And then the other part of it is all of their dads in this community remember playing for Coach when they were coming up.
Right, yeah, there's even a statue of him out front of the high school.
A big bronze with arm out.
Yeah,
raised.
just like Saddam Hussein.
It is. Or Walt Disney.
Yeah.
So that's the backdrop.
I wonder if anybody has ever said that before anywhere in the world. Just like Saddam Hussein or Walt Disney.
The point of view character, John Mox, played by James Vanderbeek. He's the backup
We
quarterback.
lost him recently, didn't we?
We did.
Okay,
Interestingly, to jump to that, 3 of the lead characters in this movie are all dead. One is James Vanderbeek, who died from cancer, I think. It's not Jon Voight. Paul Walker died in a car
that's right.
accident.
Paul Walker, that's right.
And then the overstuffed lineman,
Ron Lester, Billy Bob.
Billy Bob.
Well, I thought he was going to die in the middle of the movie.
Because he's such a big boy.
Yeah.
And apparently had gastric bypass and then eventually had complications. So he's been deceased 10 years or more.
Okay.
So 3 of the leads of this movie, all young men when they made this, in their 20s, didn't survive to make 50. And it does haunt the movie because you're watching these people, even Jon Voight, in a pitch of their earlier lives when they really have a lot to look forward to. The central cast, with only a couple of exceptions, they're all gorgeous. Jon Voight is a vigorous, I'd say late 50s dude. I've liked him as a performer all of my life. I've learned to think maybe he's a disagreeable human being.
Yeah.
But I like him on screen.
Yeah,
he does his job well.
Done a lot of good stuff.
He really has. So Mox is the backup quarterback. He's back up to Lance Harbor, played by Paul Walker. Paul Walker is eventually hurt in the campaign of the season, which means that Mox has to step into the starring role. Nobody acknowledges that Mox is a very good athlete. He's known to be a bookworm. He's a straight-A student. He reads Slaughterhouse-5 in the playbook while he's benched during the games because he knows he'll never see the field.
Right.
He wants to go to Brown, he wants to leave Texas behind, and he never wants to return, with the possible exception of his girlfriend, who's Lance Harbor's younger sister, a year behind them. He would like to keep up with Amy Smart, who is Julie Harbor, but otherwise he wants nothing to do with his hometown. He doesn't get along with his old man, who's always like, football, football, football. So Mox is built up as our point of view. He's an anti-hero because he's literate, he's a straight-A student, he doesn't really care about football, but he cares about his boys. So that includes Lance, the starting quarterback, played by Paul Walker. That includes Billy Bob, this gigantically obese, do-anything-for-you lineman, plays both sides, defense and offense. That's Ron Lester. And then it also includes Charlie Tweeter, who's sort of I guess he's a halfback, catches and runs, played by Scott Conn.
In West Canaan, Texas, there is another society which has its own laws. Football is a way of life.
You have to forgive all of that simplicity for 2 reasons, at least from my point of view. One, it's aimed at the young, MTV Films. The second thing to say about it is it's still effective at creating the cartoon characterization necessary to run through this sort of simple-mindedness. Because you do need the villain. And this is a football movie.
Well, yeah.
The villain's not going to be created in the other locker room because if we meet the other team, we're going to like them too.
Right.
Or we're going to dislike them in the same way we like or dislike our team. So the villain is the coach, Coach Kilmer. We watch Coach Kilmer urging his athletic trainers to shoot up the knee of Paul Walker's Lance Harbor because he's got so much scar tissue and damage the kid can hardly walk without pain meds. We watch various medications, illegal and not, be traded around the locker room. Everybody here is a boozer, and they're not even out of senior year.
Oh, yeah.
Which stunned me because I wasn't exposed really to alcohol until the second half of my senior year, going to a couple of weird, rowdy parties that were shocking to me in my little cloistered childhood. There it all is. Coach Kilmer wants to conclude his 30th year of coaching with a 3rd state championship, but at minimum a 23rd district championship, and the boys are marching their way through when they lose their starting quarterback. They gain a guy who's arguably even more talented, but he's got a conscience. He wants to make sure all of his buddies are going to be okay, but because Kilmer is Kilmer, he's got his thumbs on everything, and he basically says, Mox, you do what I want, or I'm going to ruin your scholarship to Brown. As you might guess, Mox and the boys pull it together and win, but they notably do so by throwing the coach out of the halftime locker because he is willing to shoot drugs into the knee of their star running back, and that's Wendell Brown, played by former NFL player Eliel Swinton, who was a Stanford star. The boys rally around him. He's the one black star player they've got who's regularly not allowed to score because the coach, in addition to all of his other faults, is a kind of an old-fashioned racist.
Yeah, it's a charge that's been leveled at Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots.
You boys get on the field, etc. They refuse and finally drive him alone out of the locker room, whereupon Vanderbeek's Mox gives a good speech. They do win the game. We get a voiceover at the end that explains what happens generally to the principal performers we've just spent time with. None of them really go on to the greatness that their adult selves might aspire to.
Right.
He does go off to Brown. Wendell gets a scholarship to Grambling, which means he's going to be a workhorse for a different difficult football coach. But none of them make it to 23 or 40. We don't get that kind of view. MTV Films focus on youth.
As I recall, the early 90s is when they really started ushering in like some programming that isn't music. That's when they brought in The State, and that's when they brought in The Real World, and that's when they brought in Beavis and Butthead and Liquid Television.
I feel like part of it was those were great. I used to stay up and enjoy the snot out of that from 11 o'clock at night. Yeah.
But it was a dramatic shift from
what they had been doing.
Music, just music, 24 hours a day. And so for me, like my relationship with MTV, which had been very close to now where it's not so much music, I'm not as up on stuff, right? You now in '99, right now you've got the rise. You got TRL, boy bands, which I was not into.
I was too old for it.
You had all of this kind of new metal that was taking over, which I was not into.
Well, hip hop had taken over the world.
Right. Well, now that I was into though. But the stuff I was into is not getting played on MTV. I hate to say like manipulative, but like like the soundtrack. It's like all these. Green Day was in there.
Yeah.
Offspring was in there.
This movie, like a lot of MTV programming, it's meant to sell soundtrack albums. I mean, the movie was not terribly expensive. My notes showed $16 million, which is far from nothing. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with some of the central cast members. It's important to realize that Vanderbeek was then on Dawson's Creek, which had made him an overnight superstar on television.
I thought Dawson's Creek came after this.
I think it was just before, like the year before.
Okay, wow,
so
all right.
Suddenly kind of America's favorite boyfriend neighbor.
Yeah.
With this weird upstart show and this weird upstart network taking on the traditional three. And boom, there he is. He probably got a pretty sweet deal on this. They had to license a lot of music. They have a big cast.
Yeah.
They all had to have hotels. It probably took a good period of time to shoot this movie. It was pretty profitable. It earned more than $50 million globally, which is enough to return on that investment.
Oh, yeah.
But it pushed these performers into future roles. It pushed the idea of soundtrack album, which was just made perfectly explicit. For me, as a flash, the first time I really realized that sometimes musicians ally themselves with filmmakers, or the reverse, filmmakers ally themselves with musicians to build soundtrack albums to pump the energy necessary for scenes, was Top Gun. Which for me exists as the Tom Cruise vehicle, and it exists as the soundtrack album, which I have on audio tape somewhere in this garage where we're recording, and on CD. I demand that Top Gun exist in both of those worlds, and I have sampled heavily each over the last 40 years, if you can believe it, right? When I hear the pop songs this movie employs, I thought to myself, now, I didn't know that song was around in 1999 because I code it to a later period of my life when I was hearing it on top 40 greatest hits of the 80s, 90s, and today.
Yeah, right. When you're seeing it in commercials.
Yeah, but there's a little leitmotif that's put under a certain number of the scenes at least twice of Foo Fighters' My Hero. But if you think about what was in theaters dating back to late 1998, you have things like The Water Boy and I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. You get into the new year and you got She's All That. You get Blast from the Past. You get Jawbreaker.
I love Jawbreaker.
From there, you get Cruel Intentions, The Rage, Carrie 2, and by March, you get 10 Things I Hate About You. This is a youth-flooded world of entertainment that is aimed right at kids. Now, a note about Varsity Blues, and I'd forgotten this. It's a very profane movie.
Kind of tonally weird like that.
Yeah.
At first, it felt like it should be a PG-13, but then there were these little moments in there that were super R.
Jonathan Boxon, you are under arrest for not being naked with some sophomore chick who wants to bang you with her tongue.
So this all brings me back around to whipped cream bikinis. There's a central secondary character played by Ali Larter, and she'll always be connected to this, though she's had a robust career all the way through the present. Ali Larter plays Darcy Sears. She's head cheerleader and the girlfriend of the starting quarterback. We meet her, and we think that means she loves Lance Harbor, played by Paul Walker. They're kind of beautifully correct, couple of blonde, great-looking people. But she's married to the role, and she's got a plan with him to go to Florida State. The instant he's hurt, he can't be the starting quarterback, but he's got no future in college. Mox has this girlfriend. He doesn't want to cheat on her, and the proof comes right up into a scene when Darcy says, "Come to my house. My parents are away till at least midnight, and you can do whatever you want to me." He arrives. He's unsure if he should be there. And she says, would you like a sundae? She goes into the kitchen, disrobes, and makes a whipped cream bikini complete with cherries.
Yes. And he rejects her, which causes her naturally to feel bad. Then they sit down on the couch to have this conversation. And I'm like, now you're getting it all over the couch.
It's never going to wash out.
It's not right. It's dairy. And also, it's really hard to take this heartfelt moment that they're having seriously while she's sitting there with cherries for nipples.
Yeah.
And maybe this is just me, but I'd be like, look, maybe go take a shower and then let's have this little tete-a-tete. You're a mess.
It is a signature scene that the movie is well known for. The exploitation of a young woman who's willing to take the job. And she was in her early 20s, not a kid. So she was perfectly able to do this. But she's playing a kid who's at most 18 years old, but is likely 17. So there's an exploitative element there that is uncomfortable. But there's a sexually exciting element there, which is totally great. And I kind of get why that's done. MTV Films. But then when you push into what their conversation is about, and she explains that she and Lance had this plan. We're going to go to Florida State together. Why she can't go on her own, I don't understand. It's alluded to later on that she won Lance by giving him a whipped cream bikini and becoming his girl.
Right.
There's no reason she can't continue to do that in the future every time she finds a young man she's interested in because she's role humping. She doesn't care about the person, and they don't care about her. They just want the body that's hidden behind the whipped cream bikini. But press in. She's gotten admitted to Florida State. Mox has already explained to Amy Smart, his girlfriend, Julie, that she's misreading Darcy, who's a straight-A student. Why would any girl who has behaved this way through all of high school suddenly see the light when a friend she's known for 13 years says, you don't have to do this? That doesn't make any sense.
Well,
but also she's got her own way out because she says, I got to get out of this town. You can.
Yeah.
That doesn't depend on me.
Right. In fact, it almost seems kind of dumb to like hitch your star to the wagon of an athlete because all of that can just evaporate so quickly in one single injury.
Which already happened.
Yeah.
And we've seen the house she lives in. Her family has means.
Oh, yeah.
They're not in a broken down, no electricity, outdoor plumbing trailer that's rotting and rusting out in the middle of a field. No, this is a nice big single family home with giant rooms. It's carpeted. She's fine.
Yeah, well,
everybody's healthy.
You know what else, too, is that you've got this situation where you have two teenagers who are engaged in an embarrassingly botched sexual activity, and they manage to both get out of it with no weirdness, and they're still pals.
The next day at school, she's like, thanks, Mox, and she kisses him full in the mouth in view of his girlfriend. That leads to its own problems. But they're completely okay because she realizes, yeah, I'm not going to have to seduce you. It's cool.
Thank God for good communication.
Right, right. So the scene plays until you press on it, and then it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It's only there because it was written that way by W. Peter Iliff, but also it's only there because Ali Larter took the part, probably knowing, hey, listen, you got to do this thing. Are you willing to do it? And she's like, I'll do anything you want if I can be in this movie.
Well, that's better than like actual full-blown nudity. I mean, I would have.
There's something suggestive about it, which is sort of fun.
I don't shame anybody for being naked on camera. But I'm just saying,
pink shame-free zone.
Right, absolutely, 100%. So, but I'm just saying, like, I know for a lot of actresses, that's like a big thing, like, to be naked on film, right? And so I feel like she kind of got like a little tiny bit of that without having to go and
completely in
the full Monty,
When you compare that against the way Scott Conn plays his part, the pseudo-rapist tweeter, he spends a fair amount of the movie with his shirt off. In at least two scenes, we see him naked from behind because he seems to just have no problem streaking. And he's beautifully well built.
Don't we see his asshole?
Good mooning, boys. Good mooning.
I wasn't ready for that.
The kids who were the stars on my high school football team, they were set apart because they were bigger. They were stronger.
Well, that's why they're on the football team.
They were rougher. They were reputed to be more difficult to manage as classroom problems, behavior problems among us as their fellow students, but certainly among the teachers. And they were also just older somehow.
Yeah.
And that is played out in how this movie looks because we have adults, all of them in their young 20s, playing people in their late teens, but are supposed to be minors turning into majors before our eyes across this football season. And they're doing very adult things. They're doing drugs. They're staying out all night. They're drinking real heavy.
In the tiny town of West Canaan, Texas, they have no idea that one of their teachers works at the strip club.
$1999, best movie year ever?
I guess the jury's still out.
Boop boopity doo.